Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Coach Matt, EliteThrowsCoaching.com. Thank you all so much for checking out the video. These videos I am going to keep as short and as sweet as possible because I know it is a ton of information. I don't want this video to drag on. So like I do before every video, just a quick reminder, we want you to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell. This is going to be a 7-part series that will be made into a playlist. So if you don't want to miss any of our upcoming videos, make sure to subscribe, click that notification bell. That way you are notified whenever a new video comes out. We're going to try to do 2 a week to get you ready for the beginning of track season. So I figured for today I would go through and read everything that's up here on the whiteboard, and then for the second part of the video I will demonstrate everything that we are going to be doing. So as you can see, this is day number 2, and day number 2 is all about releasing the discus off the first finger with a nice flat release. 2 of the big habits that always pop up with throwers is that they release the discus out of the back of their hand off their pinky finger, and when they release the discus, even if it's correctly off the first finger, it's going straight up in the air. It doesn't fly well, it wobbles, and it kind of does that flat flight where it goes out this way instead of cutting through the air. So we're going to kind of correct those 2 problems during today before they have a chance of ever popping up. We want to make sure we get our athletes off on the right foot. So the first thing we're going to do for about the first 10 minutes of practice is a recap of what we did during day 1. So we are going to be working on gripping the discus. We're going to be working on different types of swings to keep our hand on top of the discus, the release and catching of the discus, just like we did at the end of day 1. From there, we're going to go on to reinforce the discus coming out the front of the hand off the first fingers and that spin, putting spin on the discus. Remember, we don't spin through the circle, but we do have to apply that rotation, that spin onto the discus, kind of like a frisbee to make it fly. So we're going to reinforce those 2 things, and here's how we're going to do it. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to be bowling the discus back and forth to a partner. We're going to do that for about 10 minutes. We're going to be doing some letter T releases. We'll show you what that looks like. Then we're going to be doing the heel and toe, turn back and release. Again, very simple. That's kind of why I name them what they are. I don't try to get fancy. The names are just what it's going to be. A heel, toe, turn back and release. And then the turn back, pull, and release. So all of these right here are to reinforce coming off the front of the hand and to reinforce that nice flat flight, that nice flat release, not that forward straight release. We want that discus cutting through the air. We want that discus not coming up this way and tombstoning in the ground. We've all seen that happen before. Then after we do that, this is going to be right about the first 45-50 minutes of practice. The last 45 minutes of practice, we're going to get into our power position. We're going to start by turning back on the toes. Okay, so we're going to go right from turning back, pull, and release. We're going to turn back on the toes. And this is going to take about 15 minutes of our day. From there, we're going to turn back and then bend that power leg. Bend the knee of that power leg. For right-handed throwers, that's the right knee. Left-handed throwers, that's the left knee. And then we're going to ground, close, slap, pull, and release. And we're going to do that for the rest of practice. Maybe that's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever's left, that's what we're going to be working on. Now, the thing that I'm going to do here is, of course, obviously you can tell I'm not outside. I am in the gym. So if you have the option, don't get in the circle just yet. In fact, when I demonstrate these to you, I am not going to be in a circle. I'm going to be on the turf here in the gym. So if you have a cement sidewalk around a field, if you're able to get on your track and throw into the football field, if you're on an access road or a parking lot, if you can get your athletes, even just on the grass in a big open field, if you can get your athletes out of the circle and onto a big open space somewhere, maybe you're going to have to share a discus between 2 or 3 people, but the name of the game here is repetition. We want to create really good habits, and we do that with repetition. We want them taking as many throws, as many releases as possible so they can get in the habit. Okay, so remember, for the first 10 minutes, what you're gonna be doing is actually going over what we did in yesterday's video. You're gonna be talking about the grip, you're gonna be talking about some swings, and you're gonna be talking about that release and catch. So remember, with the grip, you wanna treat the discus like it is a clock. Right here is 12 o'clock. So when they put their finger on it, you want to see their finger go up to 12 o'clock, and then you're going to wrap your knuckles. Take a look at that. Wrap your knuckles right around the discus. We don't want the hand to be clamped on. We don't want to grab it in our fist, and we don't want the little meaty part of our tip on the finger. We want to see your fingertips right over the top. You can put your first two fingers together, whatever feels comfortable for you based on the size of your hand. But we want to see here is that half of the discus is covered. So this half over here is covered by my hand. The other half over here, that is open. That is not covered by the hand. So essentially you have from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock covered, and the other side is going to be open. Okay, so you've got nice grip on the fingers. You're just gonna walk around to all your athletes and make sure they are doing that correctly. And then your athletes can start to swing. When they swing, we wanna see the hand on top of the discus. This is going to start to reinforce that flat flight. We do not want to see this, where their hand is either upside down like they're carrying a dinner plate, or sideways. This is going to lead to that sideways release, that upside down release where it comes off the pinky finger and it goes the wrong way. So we want to see hand on top. We're pulling the arm back. We've got a good grip on the discus. We're making sure our fingers are at 12 o'clock. And we're gonna do this for, a couple minutes. We don't want their arm to fall off or anything crazy. We're gonna do this for a couple minutes. Then once they've got that, we're going to release and catch. Remember, it's the opposite of fishing. It's not catch and release, it's release and catch. You wanna, again, reinforce good placement of the fingers. Then we're gonna stand here, we're gonna flip it up in the air, and we're gonna catch it. Let me back up a little bit so you can see. We're gonna flip it up in the air like this, and we're gonna catch it. We're working on it coming off the first finger. It might be, try to see if I can get one to wobble really bad. So it might be like that, a little bit wobbly at first, and then eventually it's gonna smooth right out. Okay, there it is, nice and smooth, not a lot of wobble, and your athletes will get the hang of it, that it comes off of the first finger. So again, we're reinforcing what we did during day one, and when they do this for about 10 minutes, then we're ready to move on to do even more reinforcement to make sure it's coming off the first finger and to make sure that they are getting it nice and smooth. And we do that with something very simple that I bet we have all either done or seen before, and that is bowling the discus. All right, so bowling, pretty simple. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pair up your athletes. So you have two guys together, two girls together. Make sure guys, 1.6 kilo, girls 1 kilo. And here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna start bowling. Right now, I'm about 50 feet away from the camera. So all you're gonna do, put the discus in your hand, and then you are going to simply bowl the discus. So here's what it looks like. You're gonna take the discus, you're gonna take a step forward with your opposite foot. So if you are right-handed, you are going to take a step with your left foot, you're gonna crouch down, and you are going to roll the discus, just like this. Nice and smooth, just like that. Obviously, the first couple times that your athletes do this, the discus might go all the way over to somebody else at the end of that line, all the way down to somebody else at the end of that line, but eventually you just want to get it nice and straight. Let me see if I can get it straight. Perfect. So you're just going to go back and forth, back and forth. They're going to roll it to each other. Maybe if you have them set up in lines, you've got the first line throws down, and then the second line bowls back, and then they throw down, and you just have everyone do it together. Again, probably gonna take about 10 to 15 minutes of your day, but it's a great way to make sure that it's coming off the first finger, and it's a great way to make sure that they are learning how to do it smoothly without that crazy amount of wobble. So it's pretty obvious that we have a little bit of a space issue. Obviously, I am inside of a gym, so I'm not going to be able to throw an actual discus. So instead, I'm going to be throwing this little Perform Better physical therapy rehab ball. It weighs the same amount as a girl's discus. It's 1 kilogram. So it's a great option for those of you that are looking for some indoor drills, or if you're throwing into a tarp inside, great way to do it if it's raining out, okay? So the first thing we are gonna do is that letter T release. Now, what is a letter T release? Well, pretty simple. What we're gonna do is we're gonna line your athletes up in either a discus circle, or maybe you are still out on an access road, you're in a parking lot, on sidewalks. Get your athletes in a discus circle. You can see here I still have the toe board from the shot circle. Doesn't really matter, just as long as you have enough space and you're not gonna hit each other. And basically what we're gonna do is that letter T release. So when we say letter T, we want your arms out like a letter T, okay? We don't wanna see their arms down below. We don't wanna see one arm low, one arm high, stuff like this, like a letter X or a letter Y. We wanna see that letter T. We wanna get them in the habit of being in a letter T. So a letter T release looks like this. We're just going to have them stand with both feet together. You want their feet to touch, okay? So both feet, just like this, are touching. And then we're gonna have them stand here, right in the middle of their circle, like a letter T. And all we're gonna do is we're going to have them turn their body back. So if their feet are facing 6 o'clock and I'm a right-handed thrower, I'm gonna turn my torso in my head all the way to 9 o'clock. So now I am creating that separation and getting that stretch. Once I pull back in that letter T, I'm going to just turn and release the discus. Okay, just like this. Turn back, release. Go, grab them, do it again. Rinse and repeat. You're going to be doing a lot of these. The thing you want to keep in mind, this is not for distance. We are not looking to heave the thing in the air as far as possible. We are looking to keep our hand nice and flat on top of the discus. Get them used to trusting it just like they do when they do their swings and their winds, okay? Keep their hand flat, and when you release it, we want you to release it flat, okay? So if we're here, we don't want to see that right hand coming up and the discus coming out upright. We want to see that discus flat. Pull back all the way, boom. Let it go nice and flat. It might go 10 feet, 15 feet, who cares? We're building that habit. Turn back, release. Stay in a letter T, turn back, release. Letter T, turn back, release. Turn back, release. Again, about 15 minutes or so, okay? 10 to 15 minutes. They're probably going to get anywhere from 10 to 15 of these releases, and then you're going to move on to the next one. So what's next? Well, next we have the heel, toe, turn back, and release. The reason why I had you start off with both feet right next to each other is because that is the beginner step, the baby step of doing a power position throw. If you can imagine both of your feet being together right here, and then you take a step straight back, it's almost like you're on that balance beam. If you pivot on your toes, hey, look it, it's magic. I am in that heel-toe relationship, that heel-toe position. So all we're gonna do is a heel-toe position, just like this. Again, you don't have to be in a circle. And then we are going to pull back and throw. But notice what happens. Now, instead of my feet being facing 6 o'clock and me turning my torso and my head to 9 o'clock like we just did, now we're starting to teach our athletes that our feet are going to be facing 9 o'clock and our body is going to be turned all the way back towards 12 o'clock with our arm all the way toward you at 3 o'clock, toward the camera. Okay? So you start in that heel-toe position. Heel-toe position. Let me pick my feet up so you can see my skinny little legs. You're going to step back in that heel-toe position. We're not going to shift weight. We're not going to bend. We're not going to do anything. The legs are nice and straight. Letter T position. Then we're going to turn ourselves back. Now, my chest, my head, my eyes are looking out 12 o'clock. Letter T. Look at my right arm. It's all the way over here at 3 o'clock. And from here, we're not going to move our feet. we're just going to turn all the way down the middle and release. Just like that. Pretty simple stuff. Again, it's not going to be a perfect power position. That is not the goal. The goal here is to get their body used to separation. The goal here is to get their body turned all the way around at 12 o'clock with the discus back at 3 o'clock. And then as they turn that discus all the way around, 270 degrees from 3 to 12 to 9 to 6, they're going to be keeping their hand on top. Their hand is going to be flat on top of that discus the entire time. So again, you're building that trust. They're not going to be turning the hand upside down. They're not going to be throwing the discus this way. It's going to be a flat release. It's going to be a smooth release, and it's going to be a level release off the front of the hand, off their first finger, okay? So that's what we're going for. It's not distance. It's not perfect footwork and perfect timing. We are really just working on the building blocks of a power position, getting their feet aligned and making sure every release is flat and coming out the front of the hand, coming off the first finger. The last drill in this series is going to be the turn back, pull, and release. Now we start to incorporate the non-throwing arm a little bit into the throw. So you're going to start off the same way. Now, my apologies for looking at my back and the back of my head this whole time, but this is really where you're going to be standing as a coach a lot of times when you're walking back and forth between your athletes and watching them. So I want to give you as many different viewpoints as possible. So step back, turn, pull, release. Remember, we're in that good heel-toe position. We're going to step back, okay? Then we're going to turn back. Now, we're in the same position as last time. Again, my weight's not shifted. My feet are flat on the ground and they're facing 9 o'clock. My head and chest is back facing 12 o'clock. My right arm is at 3 o'clock. Now, what I'm going to do is I start to unwind. We're going to work on that timing. I'm going to turn my body. I'm going to unwind. When I get so that my hand is facing down 6 o'clock, I'm going to pull my arm in, pull that left arm in, and I'm going to release the discus. Okay, so when that arm turns, again, we're staying like a letter T. When that left arm hits 6 o'clock here, I'm going to start to pull that arm in and provide some force, that stretch reflex across the chest. As I pull in, it's going to create more speed, create that tension, create that stretch across the chest to allow the discus to accelerate. So it looks like this. Here, we're going to turn back. Okay, with the discus, it's got to go pretty quick. You're going to turn back, and then you're going to turn and throw. Turn back, turn, throw. Okay, now what we're doing is we're starting to get that timing of the left arm. When the left arm is facing down 6 o'clock, we're going to pull that left arm in and allow that left arm to accelerate and create force and pull that right arm right along behind it. All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a different viewpoint. I'm basically going to show you now from 12 o'clock position, like if you were a coach and you were standing in the back of the circle. Now what we are going to do is we're going to turn back on the toes. So it's the same exact drill we just did, but now we're going to focus on staying on our toes, staying on the balls of our feet. So what this is going to look like, you're going to start off in the same position, a good heel-toe position, both of your toes facing 9 o'clock, both your feet facing 9 o'clock. You're going to step back in that heel-toe position. Again, both of your feet are going to be facing 9 o'clock. Now from here, we're going to get up on the toes. So this is where I want you to get up on those toes, get those heels off the ground, and work on being on the balls of your feet. Now, when you turn, this right leg, your power foot, is going to stay facing 9 o'clock. I don't want to see that foot turn back to 12 o'clock. It's a bad habit. I want that foot to stay at 9 o'clock. And then this blocking foot, you're going to turn that foot and you're going to turn it so that the official out in the sector, the official that's marking where the discus lands, he's going to be able to see the bottom of your foot. To show you from this angle, heel-toe position, you're going to turn and show the official the bottom of your foot. And you can see how that allows my body to turn back a little bit easier and get my shoulders turned back a little bit easier. And that's the very beginning of the power position. Okay, the other thing you're going to want to do is have your athletes shift weight a little bit. Put some weight on that right leg. Put some weight on that power leg. You can kind of get a nice athletic, little bit of a bend in that leg as well. That's going to help. We're going to be up on the toes. Okay, a little bit of a balancing act. We're going to send the bottom of that foot all the way to the official. And now look how easy it is to turn back. Look how simple it is. My chest is already back. We've got my head back, letter T position, super simple. From here, you're going to take the discus, you're going to pull it back, and then you're going to work on turning the feet down the middle and then throw. So feet down the middle, pull and throw. So it's the same drill that we just did. The only difference is that now we are turning those feet. You're turning your feet, and you're pointing your feet down the middle, and then you're going to throw and release. Remember, it's not a full power position just yet. We're super close, but we really want to focus on turning the feet down the middle, pivoting on the balls of our feet, not letting our feet go flat. We want to stay up on the balls of our feet, up on the toes, and then we're going to turn and pivot on the ball of that foot, pull that non-throwing arm in, and then release. Let's try it from a different viewpoint, and let's take a look at our next drill. Now we're going to do the same thing we just did, but now we're going to work on bending the power leg. We're going to work on that idea, almost like a jump, of we're going to have that power leg bent so that we can turn the knee, turn the hip, turn the foot, all together as one unit, right down the middle, and then push our body and extend forward. So again, it's very similar to the last drill. All of these drills just add one extra step, one extra ingredient onto the last. So you're still going to be in that heel-toe position. By this point, your athletes should know this inside and out. We're going to be up on the balls of our feet. We're going to turn that bottom foot. We're going to turn that blocking foot so that the official out in the sector can see the bottom of your foot. And from here, we're going to bend that power leg. We're going to crouch down, nice athletic position. We're going to have our athletes just bend and bounce a little bit, okay? Now from here, the leg is going to be bent, and it's the same exact drill. We're going to keep the leg now bent in a nice athletic crouch position. They're going to pull the discus back. They're going to turn their feet, pull that blocking arm in, and throw. It'll look like this. Okay? So we're going to go from that bent right leg. What does this look like? Basically a power position. We're up on the balls of our feet, bottom of my blocking foot facing the official. We're pulling the discus back. We're turning the feet down the middle, pull, and throw. Very, very simple. Now, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Please make sure your athletes are not trying to throw for distance. We do not want your athletes trying to throw with these drills for distance. That is not the point. The point of this is to keep their hand on top of the discus the entire time. We don't want them turning their hand over. We don't want them like this with their thumb up. We want proper grip, fingertips over the rim, hand on top the whole time, creating centrifugal force, trusting the discus, trusting their dance partner, and letting it go with a nice, flat, smooth release. We're not launching it up in the air to try to get it as far as possible. We want a smooth, flat release with very little wobble, and we want it coming out the front of their hand off the first finger. Nice and smooth. Don't worry about distance. That will come. Proper form is going to make it fly far. If we try to throw it far, it probably isn't going to happen these first couple days. Okay, so proper form, proper technique is key. Make sure your athletes are focused on that only. If you see any of them trying to throw it far, stop them and have them throw it correctly. Now, with the remaining time left in your practice, this is where you want to start to introduce the proper steps of the power position. So I'm going to put a link up in the card up in the corner there that's going to link you to our shot put video series that we did that talks about the parts of the standing throw. It's the same thing with the discus, except for instead of having the shot up against your neck, you've got a discus out far away from your body. So we're going to be talking about grounding, closing, slap, pull, and release. With shot, it was grounding, closing, slap, pull, push. Now instead of a push like shot, it is a flat release in the discus. All right, so what does that look like? Well, just to go through it quickly, maybe by the end of it, your day of practice, you start to introduce, for example, what grounding is. So again, we talk about grounding. We want to see good power position. When we ground, we want to turn this blocking foot down the middle. We want to start to point it down that left sector line and put it flat on the ground. Grounding, okay? Closing is when we start to close this right toe, hip, and knee, just like the 3 hinges on a door, they all close together. Then we're going to slap the left arm, pull the left arm in, and then release. Okay, so there's the 5 parts of the standing throw. Maybe you start to introduce, again, the first part, which is grounding, maybe the second part, which is closing, but no matter what, again, we're working on a flat hand. We're working on creating centrifugal force. We are working on getting used to that discus in our hand and creating that good habit of that letter T position, keeping the fingertips on top and letting it release out the front of the hand. So maybe at the end of practice, everyone gets in the circle and we just say, okay, we're going to do the same drill we just did, but now we're going to really focus on turning and grounding your blocking foot. So it looks like this: pull back, ground, and release. Next person gets in, they start here, bent right leg, everything is bent, nice and bouncy. They take their discus, they wind it up a little bit, pull back, ground, release. Good. Next person gets in, same idea, discus in their hand. They're going to pull back, ground. Again, we're working on grounding, turning that foot, putting it down, pull back, ground, and release. Okay, so that's when you start to introduce more of that formal power position work, those 5 points: grounding, closing, slap, pull, release. That is what we're going to be doing in the next video, is taking them through the power position. Remember, this is only day 2. Look at all the good habits that we've built. Look at all the bad habits that we've prevented from creeping in. That's what we're going to be doing in the power position tomorrow. And then, believe it or not, we're going to start working in the middle of the circle, in the back of the circle, so that we have your athletes doing that full throw, that full competition style throw in 7 days.